All right. So, um, putting together this webinar for Refugee Ed specifically was very hard because there's such a range of people, right, involved, and such a range of people that we wanted to cater to. So, I've really tried to keep it as broad as possible, but at the same time as practical and specific as possible, which is a bit of a difficult balance. But we'll see how it goes. The other thing is I wanted to use this opportunity to also just, how can I say, to show you how we can make this kind of class just a little bit interactive, right? Just some little ideas just to keep the engagement going. But again, there's a trade-off between engagement and the time that you have, because engagement requires time. There's interaction involved and takes up time. So again, trying to decide for this webinar and for you when you're teaching online, to get that balance between having interaction and, trying to help the student learn something during that time. Okay, giving information maybe, but also keeping it interactive. So lots of things to always think about. So at the end, you can see what my balance was like. We'll see. I think, all right, looking at my old-fashioned notes here on my paper, I think we're good to go. So as Colette said, we're going to look at different issues, and I'll try to be done within 50 minutes, maybe 60 maximum. And so we've got 20 to 30 minutes for question and answer session. All right. First thing I want you to do is just have a look at these quotes. On the one side, the man or woman who can make hard things easy is the educator. And the second one, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. Just contemplate those two quotes for a moment. And I basically just want you to lull them over and keep them in the back of your mind as we go through the webinar. We'll come back to them right at the end. But as we speak, just keep thinking about these two quotes and think about how they can relate to online teaching. Okay. Now, as I said, there will be a bit of interaction. So what I would like you to do, right? What I would like is for my slide to come. Okay, right. It's okay. Right. So what we're going to do today then is, first of all, I want to spend some time looking at issues that will help you sort of gain an understanding. First of all, the similarities and differences between online and offline teaching, and also the expectations from the student and teacher side. This should help you develop an online, not teaching, I like the word learning mindset. It's a different mindset that you need to get yourself into when helping somebody learn online. The second aspect is more practical. It's more about the know-hows. We'll focus on knowing the options, knowing what is available to you when creating a learning opportunity online for students, and also how to engage learners and make things run smoothly. This in turn will help you sort of give you a starting point. So you have the initial tools and the initial ideas from where you can start. Now, my first question for you is, so we help develop an online learning mindset on the one hand. On the other hand, have the initial tools and ideas available. What do you think might be the ultimate goal here at the bottom? Write something in the chat, please. What might be the ultimate aim, objective, goal for today, keeping these two things in mind? Okay. Right. Okay, I'm seeing some coming through. All right. Replicate teaching online as just like in school, so similar. How to teach on, trainers how to teach online. Okay, translating offline into online, improve learning experience, psychology. All right, great. I can see a lot of thinking in your answers, but also a lot of variation, okay, which is to be expected. All right, yes, loving English. Of course, I can't see them all, but this is not for me. This is for you, right? To reflect and to think. So what I was thinking, this is mine, you're not wrong, is very simple to have the online learning mindset together with the tools so you can develop your own learning style and or learning program. All right, whatever that might mean for you in your context. We know that teaching a student, right, every single student is different, every single context is different. And when it comes to teaching refugees, the differences are even greater, and it's even more difficult to define a specific program or a strategy. There's such a great variation in our students. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to start off with the scanning and understanding. Right. But before that, teaching online, I want you to take a moment now to just think back to any kind of online learning experience that you've had, either as a student or as a teacher. And just think about a positive experience that you've had. And again, in the chat, can you write just 1 or 2 words maximum per person that would characterize your positive experience in terms of learning online? Right. Flexibility, pace, interaction, interactive, creativity, engagement, flexibility, fun. Yes, I'm not a speed reader, dynamic, good questions, creativity, all right, understanding, own pace, sharing with others. Okay, wonderful. Okay, wonderful, the variety. Once again, that's why my aim is not to show you, okay, this is how we teach online. I want you to develop your own learning style, your own style of helping somebody learn, be able to develop your own programs, because we're all different. We all help our students different. We connect with our students differently, and their situations are so different. But, right, some very good ideas. Learning like a game, freedom, flexibility. Wonderful. So let's make a start then. Let's look at the whole issue of mindset, creating an online mindset. Let's look at what is similar and what's different. First of all, what's similar? It's a class, right? It's a class. Learning takes place. It's a formal or informal setting where learning takes place. There is a relationship between the educator or the teacher and the student that they build up over time. There's some kind of relationship between students, and teaching and learning takes place both offline and online. Right. So that's the similarities. The differences. Actually, maybe it's not a class. For the teacher, yes, it's a class. You have your students, they need to learn. But what about some of our particular students? Thinking about the situations that they are in. When we're teaching on offline, face-to-face, okay, we might have a specific space that's dedicated to learning, call it a classroom or whatever space it might be, inside, indoors or outdoors for our students. But when they're online, who knows where they are? They might be sitting in a room with their family members around them. The only place they might have internet connection is close to a noisy area, or they might have to go, outside and be distracted. So the feeling is not necessary for the students, not necessarily of that of a learning environment. So the psychology can be quite different, The relationship also can be different. The rapport that you build with a student, I'm sure you can all understand, it's quite different online and offline. It's very possible to build very excellent rapport and become friends with people online. But there is an element missing for me. Just the physical presence of another person makes such a big difference to the relationship we built with them. And I mean, the last couple of months globally, we all feel that. So it's a key difference in how we connect with our learners. And then finally, yes, teaching and learning is different. It's still teaching and learning that goes on, but in a slightly or maybe very different way. Now, there's this acronym RAT, nice one for you to remember, that I want to look at and give you some ideas on how teaching and learning can be different online. Okay. So, RAT. The first one is replace. So when we compare offline and online teaching, sometimes we simply replace what we do offline with an online method. For example, a virtual classroom. Instead of having the teacher, the teacher and the students in one room, you have the teacher and the students on different ends of a computer using a virtual classroom. Instead of writing in the notebook, they're typing. Maybe instead of speaking, they're recording their voices. Right, just replace one thing with another. Then A, what do you think A might be? Write in the chat. What? So replace. Okay, this one, adapt, 2 adapt, 3 adapt, 4 adapt, adapt, adopt. Right. Amplify. Right. So adapt, yes. Amplify, I suppose it could be very similar. So you enhance what you're already doing. So collaborative writing, using, for example, Google Docs, having students, maybe from different parts of the world, even collaborating on a writing. You can't do that as well as you would be able to do it in a traditional classroom, with a notebook, for example, or using tools like speed reader tools. Instead of students just reading a text, you can copy and paste the text into a speed reader tool. You can adjust the speed and help them develop their reading skills, not to help them read faster, but using this tool to develop their reading skills. Okay, because you can slow it down a lot and then speed it up as they get better, etc. Amplify. So T, you've got replace, amplify. T, any thoughts? What might T? Teach, T, test. Right, teach, test. Transform, I suppose. Talk. We're talking really about creating learning opportunities. So transform. Yeah, where you have a complete transformation of what you do in the offline class compared to the online class, right? Or in the online class compared to the offline class, right? For me, it's easy. I've got 2 little boys, look at transformers and, you just see a completely different form of something. So instead of a speaking activity or presentation, they create a whole video, right? You can take interactive virtual tours, for example. So here, I did not particularly want to give you just ideas, but give you this model that you can use, which is not mine, right? You can also have a look at the reference here. And there's a wider model as well. It's called the PICRAT model, which includes basically a matrix of replace, amplify, and transform learning experiences. And the PIC stands for passive, interactive, and creative. You can look it up, it's very interesting. It's a framework to help you think about the options and what you can do online. All right, so now coming back to this, we looked at the similarities and differences. Now we're going to look at the expectations, right, to help us develop an online learning mindset. So, right, our expectations. What do we expect from our students? Okay, this is rhetorical. You can write it if you like, but what do we expect from our students? I know what I expect. I want perfection. I want my students to be just perfect, really. Studious, attentive, diligent. And I want them to have the perfect connection, because then I know that I can do a good job, and I know that learning will take place more easily, right? Or do we really want effort? Okay. Want them to try, to ask for help, to have a growth mindset. Yeah. Right. Yes. So, yes, on the one hand, we want perfection, but really when it comes down to it, we just want them to make an effort. So what's this got to do with you developing an online learning mindset? Well, think about what is expected from you as an educator, from your students or from the organizations that you work for. Perfection or effort? I think that one is quite clear. And I mention this particularly because I've seen a lot of teachers and educators that are new to online teaching that really come with this idea that I have no idea what to do, and I'm not good with technology, I'm going to make mistakes, I'm just going to ruin it. They start off with the wrong idea. It's just starting with knowing what you've got and making an effort to build on your own skills, technology skills as well, creating an online mindset and have this growth mindset to continue. So the expectations on you as an educator are not great, okay? Or at least not as great as some would think. Right, that concludes the part about the online mindset, creating an online mindset. I want to move over now to the know-how. As I said, you need to understand your options. You need to understand what's available to you, right? How you can engage learners and create a very positive learning experience. Right, so you've got the initial ideas and tools to get you started. So first of all, options. The basics, right? When you're teaching in a virtual environment, you need to know what the apps that are available or the software. Okay, Zoom, Skype, Jitsi, WhatsApp, etc., etc. These are just a few. I haven't used them all, but there are so many alternatives available these days. And so which one to choose? Well, you've got to know the features that are generally available and which app provides which feature. Now, I could have given you lists, for example, okay, Zoom can do this, this, and this, Skype can do this, this, and that, etc. But I didn't feel it would be helpful. You need to maybe decide first, start with a simple app, and then as you develop your own online skills, think about what you would like to do with a student and find out which app can help you do that. For example, screen sharing, okay, most of the apps, the first 5 for sure. Chat as well, voice recording, some of them, subtitles. I don't know, many people don't realize that or are aware of the fact that Skype provides automated subtitles as well. It's got this feature. Zoom's got a whiteboard. You can play your sound from your computer through Zoom. You can do it through Skype as well, but you need to download another piece of software. You know, how can you record your class? So you need to know what you want to do and then find the app to do that. But of course, you also need to be aware of the ease of use, for both the educator and the student. The first thing I put here, connection. Some of you might know that different apps have different issues with connections. We have found Zoom to be superior to Skype in that regard, personally. WhatsApp, right? Messenger can be a bit heavy, but it's okay. WhatsApp's a little bit lighter, but it depends on so many variables. Of course, for our students in particular, if an app is not mobile friendly, then I don't know if it is even worth trying. Right? For us, at least, by far the vast majority of our students use mobile phones. They don't have access to laptops or computers. All right. And yes, the general usability, just being user-friendly. I mean, is it intuitive? If you open it up, will you be able to figure out what it can do? So first of all, know your basics. And a nice motto for me is this one. Okay, know what you can do so you can do what you can. Right. To do what? To help the student learn. Know what you can do so you can do what you can to help the student learn. All right. So first of all, the basics. Next, tools. So the previous ones were tools, but these were just the basics. Then we've got extra, let's call them learning enhancement tools, right? Kahoot, Google Classroom, text to voice, Quizlet, Google Suite, Summary Box. I'm not going to read them all. The list is huge. All right. These are just a few. There are tools, for example, WordWall or EduCandy, for example, that you can create, puzzles as well, that you can create interactive games with. Somebody wrote it in the chat, make learning a kind of a game. You can create games as well. Okay, Google Classroom, Google Suits, okay. Quizlet for flashcards and questions. Flipgrid, I personally like. It was bought by Microsoft and it's free now, where you can basically give students a task to do in their own time, self-study task, and they can respond by recording themselves, either voice only or with a video, and you can provide feedback in terms, you can provide written feedback or also voice and video feedback as well. Vocaroo to make little sound recordings. Sure, you can do that on Messenger and WhatsApp, but if you want to have a little MP3, just go onto the website, record it, paste a link, and it's done. So many things. All right, we can talk about these issues later. Actually, also like, text to voice, pasting in text, and it turns it into audio. You can choose your accent and your gender, of course. Summary box, taking a big text, maybe any kind of text that you have, maybe online from a website, you want to just condense a little bit as well. It summarizes it for you automatically. Numerous bits and pieces. Okay, yeah. So I'm just looking at the chat. Yes, of course you will have available all these tools, and you can have the recording as well. All right. Okay. And
can I jump in there, Philip, and ask,
yes,
perhaps which ones of these are mobile friendly? Because if we're talking about our students working on mobiles, which ones are easy to use on a mobile and which ones would you stay well clear of?
to be honest, in my experience, in terms of teaching refugees, most of the time I stay well clear of most of them. The reason being the connection issue. But so honest, I myself haven't really used these. I tend to do a very sort of speaking-based class. I don't know if Alexandra or Silvina have used any of these in their classes.
Okay, just to unmute myself. Hi. So I think Quizlet and WordWall should be quite user-friendly. I mean, and Google Classroom, Google Forms. I mean, I've designed lessons using Google Forms and assessment, so it's quite easy to use on a mobile. The Kahoot is really nice, but in general, people need 2 devices. So for example, we could play Kahoot, we could do a quiz right now, but students would need an extra device to type their answer. So, but it's worth testing, just testing them. So Quizlet is quite easy to use and there are loads of materials already there. And WordWall is pretty nice. And Padlet, I think they added some extra features, some limits, so you have to pay and you can't use a lot. You can only create 3 walls, 3 Padlets where you can post worksheets, links, and so on. So the Google Suite is quite good. Google Suite, sorry.
Thank you, Alexander. I see. All right. So if there are, yeah, we can talk more about this later on. I see also a couple of people with some good experience about that too in the chat. All right. Like I said, I had to keep a balance between sort of, what I wanted to do today. And I thought not to, just to give you ideas, a starting point. So as Alexander said, really, at the end of the day, you've got to experiment and see what works with your particular learner and your particular situation, because it varies so much. But yeah, right. And so at the bottom, which words are missing here? Know what you do, so you do what you... Let's see. What's the motto? It's missing. Okay. Yes. Know what you can do, so you can do what you can. All right. So if you don't know what you can do, I mean, like, that's why you're asking your questions. It's hard. So, basics, tools. Now, resources. Again, I've just got a small list, right, of potential resources that you can use. British Council, Cliplingo, Lingua's, Breaking News. I mean, you will know a lot of these, but right, again, a starting point for you, maybe if you haven't taught online, just to start with these, grab some resources, create your lessons, get materials, and then, of course, use, take the resource you want, and then you can use RAT, R-A-T. What did we say RAT stands for? Run away from technology? No? RAT, when it comes to offline versus online materials, RAT, replace, amplify, transform. Thank you. All right. So you will have the list, this list, some ideas. When I teach, I tend to teach more sort of personally. I teach higher level students, right? So the kind of things I often do is grab an article, ask a student to read it, and then just very simply, they provide me with a summary. We discuss the article, we discuss the vocabulary, always having the article open in front of them. Now, my personal style is very sort of simple in that respect. That's what I often do. But there are so many other things you can do as well in terms of listening and so on, getting resources. All right. And as you can see, something missing there. Who can remember what the motto is? Know what? Know what? So what? Okay. Right. Okay, here we go. Lots of, okay, cans and do's. Yes, basically cans and do's and use. So know what you can do, so you can do what you can. You really want to do whatever you can to help the student learn, right? And you need to know the basics, the tools, and the resources to be able to do that. All right. So we started off by looking at some issues, similarities and differences, right? Between online and offline classes, the expectations of the student and of the teacher to just help you develop an online learning mindset. Looked at the know-how, looking at your options. Now we're going to look at engagement and some ideas there. First thing, connection, right? Especially for the refugee context, connection is number one, really. If there's no connection, you really literally cannot do anything. So, before class, ask the student to help to find the area, the space where they've got the best connection, whatever that means for them, right? But it's not only for them, it's for you as well, right? Inside your house, find the area with the best connection. Of course, cable over Wi-Fi, definitely. Always be plugged in whenever you can. And then there's also Wi-Fi versus 4G. Normally, people would say that Wi-Fi is preferable to 4G or data, but recently, some other work I do as well, I've been teaching students from France and Spain, and in the last month or so, that the internet's been overloaded, they find that actually the mobile phone connection is better than the Wi-Fi connection, right? So you never know. So you also need to find the best area of connection for you. If you cannot use a cable, sit right next to your router, right, as close as you possibly can. And switch off your computer occasionally, restart it. Computers get tired basically, and they do not function as well as you might think. This great habit that we all have, we just close the screen of the laptop. It really messes with the computer, it slows it down, and it doesn't really aid our use of the computer for online learning. A USB headset, any headset's better than nothing. But if it's a USB, it's even better because it bypasses the sound card. It's got its own integrated sound card. And so the quality is much better, right? You can get them not too dear, anything from about 25 upwards. It's a worthwhile investment, for sure. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Microsoft headsets or this Logitech one are great. If you have an oldish computer or even a newish one, close all the other programs just so that all the bandwidth of the internet is focused on what you're doing. Reset your router regularly, once a week is recommended. Again, there can be some lag and latency issues there. So just switch it off, wait 5 or 10 seconds, switch it back on. Right? If you're using browsers, clear your cache. Again, it frees up the computer's memory to deal with the connection with other students that might not have such a good connection. It helps the issue. And also all the cookies and things that are stored can cause interference. And it might actually happen that, for example, when you use Adobe Connect, I found that issue, that if you don't clear your cache regularly, your audio might just not work because the cookies are clashing, right, in a way. Of course, minimize the number of learners. If you're teaching a group, keep the groups as small as possible. And last one here, a poor connection policy. This is something that really encourage you to think about. So a policy with a student or an agreement with a student or students say, look, okay, if we, for some reason, are not able to have a good connection, what are the steps we're going to follow? Okay, how long are we going to try and sort out the problem before we switch to a different app, or before we just have to cancel the lesson? If we cancel the lesson, when are we going to make it up again? So think very carefully about the policy that you want to have in place in case there are connection issues. And as Colette said, she had a policy as well, said in case there are connection issues today, you will just all patiently wait for me to come back and discuss some practical tips that you can give each other in terms of teaching online. Before we move on, I can hear somebody. So if somebody's got the microphone on, can you mute it, please? Thank you very much. Okay, just hear some drinking going on there, I think. Right. Now, we continue with optimizing connection. What about during class? All right, so you've got your Zoom or your Skype or whatever you're using, having a great class, the connection drops, switch off your webcam. Number one, just switch it off. Sometimes you need to try a completely different app. So again, it's about your policy. You might be using Zoom and maybe WhatsApp as your backup, right? And if you've got a different app, you might use audio only. You might only use chat. Okay, it might be so difficult for a student to connect again, because some refugees, they do work, and they do work illegally, and they are a little bit, okay, they can be exploited, so they do work long hours. It does happen. So actually finding another time to book a lesson might be hard for them, or they have very specific and limited time periods when they can have internet. So maybe you just need to continue the lesson using chat only in WhatsApp. So again, you need to know how you can do that, what kind of activities you can do with there. Or maybe voice messages. If you don't want to type, or for you it might be easy. You can maybe have, for example, have WhatsApp on your computer, right? And you can type with your keyboard. It's easy enough. But your student with a mobile phone, trying to tap away and writing can be hard. So maybe it'll be easier just to deal with voice messages to and fro. Or they can give a voice message, they can chat. That's for the connection. Okay. Now, engagement. Right. Again, I don't want to mention too much, just a few bits and pieces. All right. Just to give you some ideas, get you thinking. We'll discuss this later. But basically, in terms of engagement, the same rules apply as in the classroom. Okay. Rapport. That, for me personally, the connection you have with a student, but not even with a student or a learner, but the connection you have with that person, right? There's a person on the other end of the line, so to speak, that is there to help themselves get a better life, right? And that connection that you have with them, to create with them, is utmost. Try to focus on the learner's interest. Again, it can be easy or difficult, right? If you've got a person in a refugee camp, they may have interest from the past, but talking about the past might be a bit sensitive for them. It is tricky. And once again, that's once you've built up the rapport and understand the person, then you can explore their particular interests a bit more. But at least something familiar to them. All right. Interaction, learner interaction, of course, between yourself and the learner. But if you have a group between learners, get them to talk to each other, discuss issues, use breakout rooms in Zoom where you can divide students up into small groups where they can do pair work, for example, just talk with each other or do a task together in pairs, and then you can bring them back to the main room. Have variety. Again, I was going to include a lot of variety in today's webinar, but again, I had to weigh it up against time. All right. There's a lot of different, have a variety in your class. Change the pace. So, for example, if you're looking at a text, you might be discussing it. You've given them a text to do for homework, to read through and to understand. And then you discuss it during the class. And you say, okay, now put your text away. We've spoken about it for about 20 minutes. Now try to give me a quick 2-minute summary, just whatever you remember, a quick 2-minute summary of the reading. So it goes from just a discussion to just something quick where they have to be on the ball and think a bit differently. It changes the pace. It makes it less monotonous. And something I always try to do is ask myself, what will the student, the learner, what will they learn in this class? Okay, they've got to learn something, not just, okay, we did grammar, or we did this tense, or we did this vocabulary. For me, it's not about doing something, it's about helping them learn. And not just say, okay, yes, I'm going to help the student learn X or Y, but the student needs to be aware of it. You need to communicate with them in such a way that they understand what they've learned. At the end of the class, maybe have a little summary, or ask them, what did you find interesting today? What did you learn? How do you feel about your speaking today? How do you find speaking about this article compared to the previous time you spoke about something else? Make them realize that in every single class they are learning something. Learning is satisfying, we know this, and it motivates us. Right. So, engage them. Need to engage. For me, there are 4 things. Can you hazard a guess or make an educated guess? What do we need to engage? Right in the chat. Okay. Right, Ryan, you're quick off the mark. Interest. Engage the interests. Okay, what they're interested in, their motivations. What is motivating them? Okay, what interests them? What do they like doing? The motivations. Why are they learning English? If they're learning English in a refugee camp, they need to communicate their basic needs. Engage with those needs that they have. Or they have got a job and they need to do the IELTS exam to immigrate to Australia or Canada. Engage with that, their motivations, their mind, keep them stimulated, keep their mind stimulated and active, and their emotions. With emotions, what I mean is mostly about making them feel good about learning. If somebody feels good about learning, they will learn, they'll be motivated and engaged. Right. So now a few ideas, and then we're coming towards the end. Again, just going through this quickly. I'd rather have a discussion later on this. Speaking, right? Build up their fluency maybe through timed speaking. I've done this with teenagers as well in the past. They really kind of like it. It changes the pace. I say, okay, I'll give them just a general topic, a very easy topic, maybe a word or topic. School, okay, talk about this topic for 30 seconds only, and then 1 minute, then 2 minutes, and then 3 minutes. And it kind of just extends it. You can change the topic as well, and it just helps them to build up and to scaffold their speaking rather than saying, okay, I want to practice fluency, and can you tell me about this or that experience that you've had? So talk as much as you like. They don't always know what to say, but if you build it up, you'd be surprised, especially when you come to, like, remember when I come to maybe the 2 or 3 minute mark, I said, okay, please talk about this topic now for 2 or 3 minutes. Then I would just let them go on speaking, and more often than not, majority of learners would speak much more than the 2 or 3 minutes that I allocated to them. And when they're done, I said, okay, the 2 minutes is up. And I go, oh, wow, okay. And I say, well, actually, you spoke for like 3 minutes, and it just makes them feel so good. They can't believe what they have managed to do. Right. If you're using, okay, you can paste some words in the chat for them to use. Maybe you've looked at some adjectives. Okay, now here are the 5 adjectives in the chat. Answer this question. Try and use, at least 3 out of the 5. Change roles. Let them ask you questions. Let them teach you something if their level is good enough. Let them guide the conversation. Let them take it, where they want to. So they can also develop their own skills in holding a conversation, because, in the real world, they need to ask questions too. It's not just us, right? And also learners can ask each other questions. Reading out loud for pronunciation practice. Low level and also very high level students. Okay, a prepared talk. Many things you can do. Using voice messages in numerous ways also can be helpful. Now, more ideas. Listening. Okay, you can play your audio through Zoom, whatever it might be. Could be anything really. Do you want them to listen to discuss, to focus on language? You name it. Again, reading aloud. You can read aloud. You can tell them a story for them to listen to. You can tell them something interesting. Right? They don't necessarily have to understand everything, but you can ask them, say, okay, I will read something to you now. I will tell you a little story about myself or about something I know. When I'm finished, yes, tell me whatever you remember. That's it. It just keeps them focused and concentrated. Again, changing roles. Like I say, students interacting with each other, asking each other questions so they can listen to other students talk. Right, we forget sometimes how important listening can be in a class, listening to other students, listening to other accents, especially if we have a multicultural setting in our class. Just the fact that they have the chance to listen to other people speak English in different accents will help them tremendously in the real world one day. So a lot of people struggle with that. MP3s through WhatsApp or Messenger also. Okay, you can do lots with that. Then reading, if it's difficult to, maybe you're used to using maybe a textbook or course book, which has the readings in it. Take a photo and send it to them, or find something on the computer, send a screenshot, if they can't access the internet very easily, or if downloading, maybe a whole file is too much. Maybe a little screenshot, a low resolution works well. Just paste the text in Google Docs that they can open up in a browser. This is something I want to try. I haven't used it yet. It's an app called Insert Learning. It's a free app that you can add to Chrome. Don't know if any of you know it. And you can turn any website into a quiz. So you can choose a text and create questions for them to answer. When they go to that website, to that link, everything is ready. So taking a web page and creating a quiz out of it. It's next on my list to try out. Writing, something I enjoy doing from a pad or Google Docs. It's real-time writing. So you ask a student to write something, sentences, paragraphs, whatever you might want to be practicing, and you can see what they're writing as they're writing. So you're literally watching them create the writing, and you can pause them, you can provide feedback as they go. Just wonderful. From a pad is also good because it's a very light web-based tool you can use. Okay. And speed writing, another thing I sometimes do, just to help with what I call writing fluency. Right? Sometimes we just need practice to be able to write a lot. I must admit I use this a lot for exam classes, where students do need to be able to write quickly, but I give them time limits, just like I did for the speaking. Write about this topic, without thinking too much about structure or grammar or vocabulary. Just write what comes to mind. Just write in English. Get your mind churning over in English. Okay, maybe for 30 seconds, 1 minute, 5 minutes, and so on. Right. Quick ideas there. Finally, low-level learners. This was something that was specifically requested, and we can talk more about this later. Build on their current knowledge. I mean, this is true for any kind of learning, right? Anything we learn, we need to build on what we already know. There's no point, just choosing a random topic, and trying to teach somebody that so much. All right. Of course, it's useful. What I mean is it's much better if you can understand their current knowledge, where they are, and just build on that little by little. Not to get the current knowledge about something is here and you go here and there and there and there. Okay, just build like a wall, slowly and carefully. And what I always try to keep in mind specifically with low-level learners is they want to communicate. They need to communicate. That's it. They don't want to learn English, so to speak. That's not the point. Of course they do, but you know what I mean. It's about communication, the ability to communicate. They have a need to communicate in English for whatever reason. That's why whatever we do should be useful for them. Again, they might be in a camp and they need English to gain access to basic needs, right? Something that's useful for them. For example, very low-level learner, the alphabet. Do they really need the alphabet? Do they need to know how to say the alphabet? Well, yes, because maybe they need to be able to spell their name. So do they need to know all the letters of the alphabet, in the very first class? Possibly not. Later on, yes. But at least if they can spell their name, or whatever things they need to be able to spell, these are the things to focus on, things that are immediately useful, because we have so little time with these students. Right? That's why I say that. And teach to their strengths. Notice what they are good at in terms of language learning and build on that. If they're good at vocabulary, build on their vocabulary a little bit more so you can encourage them and motivate them. And when they're motivated, you can slowly add other bits and pieces too. What I've been saying all along, we're teaching to learn, not teaching to teach. Oh, I'm going to teach you a language. You're going to, okay. So you want to be taught a language? No, they want to learn. And that's quite a different perspective. Keeping in mind that their understanding is better than their speaking. Right? Students do understand a lot more than we sometimes think, just like we do, right? I'm sure most of us are language learners or have been. We all understand a lot more than we can actually produce. On a more practical level, always try to show and not tell. Use pictures, illustrations, drawings, hand gestures, facial expressions, anything you can to show instead of telling. When you do need to give in kind of instructions, writing it down while you're speaking is useful. Dialogues, again, useful things that will be useful for them to learn. Repetition and practice, a lot of repetition, and also routine and predictability. When you have a student, for example, that's a low-level English learner and have very low literacy as well in their first language, and possibly even low computer literacy, just any kind of predictability will help them feel more comfortable, and it will mean a lot less talk and explanation from you as the educator. So initially, a lot of routine and predictability in the lesson, I would suggest. And two things I try to keep in mind with low-level learners. First one is what we call mastery learning. This is from Bloom as well. So to really master some things before you move on. So for them to gain a certain level of mastery in communicating, maybe, their name, or anything that's important to them, maybe their name, their nationality, and their basic needs in a refugee camp, for example, is what they need to communicate, right? Once they've mastered that, then move on to a different level, something else, rather than, okay, today we're gonna, look at the alphabet and your name and your nationality. Fine, done. Next lesson, we're gonna look at, your basic needs. Done. Next lesson, we're gonna look at this. They don't master it. This is teaching rather than learning. Yes, they're being taught. Yes, they learn something, but they don't master it and they can't use it. And that's where repetition and practice comes in. And generally, in terms of language learning, remembering that language learning, it's not a subject. Okay, it's not knowledge, it's a skill. So just like we learn any kind of skill, whether it be a musical skill, artistic skill, or skill in a sport activity, it's a different perspective when we see it as a skill, right? And it's just about learning a skill and about communication. Right, if we keep this in mind, it will help us with our lower level learners also. Right. So, to sum up, we've looked at, right, similarities and differences and expectations to help just get you started on creating an online learning mindset. We looked at the know-how, knowing your options, the basics, the tools, the resources. We looked at engaging learners, connection issues, ideas for engaging them as well. And also specifically at low-level learners, just to give you a starting point in terms of tools and ideas, and so that you can, on your own, start to develop your own online learning style and maybe online learning program. Right, this is only the start, and then build on that. About an hour ago, I gave you these two quotes to keep in mind. Right, I said the man or woman who can make hard things easy is an educator. And sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. So again, just for yourself, just take 30 seconds to think about, if you can think back to the first time you read this and the first time you thought about how this is related to online learning. Now, 1 hour later, and after everything I've said and what you've thought about, just think about at least one thing that has changed for you in terms of this, or what about these quotes make more sense for you, or just seems more relevant for you. Okay. All right. So, right. Yes. Okay. So you've all got your own thoughts. Thank you for the comments too. My thoughts on this is, what I try to get across today is, our job is to make learning easy, whatever that means, whether it's offline or online. We need to facilitate learning, and to be able to do that, we need to know the student, we need to know the learner, we need to know their situation, we need to know the tools that are available for us online, what we can do, what we can't do, and just make learning easy for them. But yes, we need to try things, right? And yes, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. So I'm going to stop sharing there. We have a good 20 minutes at least for questions and answers. Colette, I'll leave it up to you now. I'm happy not to talk again. We've got a lot of people here with a lot of experience that can share their thoughts as well. but I'm happy to take any questions. I know many of you gave questions. I've got the list. I would love to answer them, but there are so many very interesting issues to talk about, and I wouldn't know, which one to give priority to. So, Colette, over to you.
Okay. So yeah, is there any questions that people would like to raise now? You can, turn on your microphone and start speaking. Hopefully you don't all do it at once. Or you can write it in the chat box. What would you like to ask? We have 44 brains here, so hopefully we can come up with some good solutions. Okay, a good length for an online class. What does everybody think about this question? How long is a piece of string?
Maybe just write in the chat your thoughts.
Yeah, great idea. 45 minutes, maximum 1 hour, 20 minutes. Yeah, maximum 1 hour, an hour. Yeah, it depends on students' internet. 30 to 45 minutes, 20 minutes.
I don't know if there is a correct answer. From my personal experience, sort of 25 to 30 minutes is great. I mean, even I've got a lot of 25-minute classes there. Perfect for kind of speaking practice and so on. If you want to do more in-depth things here, coming up maybe to 50 minutes, an hour, absolute maximum. That's for me personally. But yeah.
Okay, loads of things are coming through, so bear with me. Yeah, someone said it all depends on the student and the class, quite right. Carmen says, this is perhaps another point, the challenge of self-learning is a key point that I find difficult in our students. They expect more from the teachers than to believe in themselves. I guess it goes back to motivation and engagement. Does anybody have any thoughts on this that they would like to share?
I think we have to separate out online teaching in general and in our specific context, because we're not living in a normal way. And so that's on top of students' refugee context where they're already living in an abnormal way, in a way that they would never live in their own lives. So you're heaping greater pressure with greater limitations on top. So I think we should separate out teaching online in general in a regular way, and in this specific context that we were doing, because it's not a level playing field at all.
Yeah, absolutely. I think recognizing our limitations and not, as Philip was saying, not having super great expectations, accepting what we can do. Sorry, what was your name?
Tiff.
Tiff, do you have any ideas for what Carmen was asking about with kind of engaging students and motivation? How can we get them to be kind of self-studying?
I think giving them some pre-tasks, like Philip said, I think it's a good idea. So like, that if you're going to come to the class, sorry, if anyone wants, I'm Scottish, so if anyone wants to use subtitles, please do. Yeah, so give them some pre-tasks, which gives them some ownership and also gives them something to do. For some learners, it's difficult to focus, but for some, they're saying that they're very bored. The loss of routine is very difficult at the moment. So some pre-tasks, also cooperative learning, whereby in order to participate in the class effectively, they actually have to do part of a task, which means that they kind of have a responsibility. So when your motivation is low for yourself, then maybe if you realize you're part of a small group or a team, you'll find a way to get that motivation level up enough. There'll be some.
Yeah. I think that's really nice, like a collective challenge. Yeah, I like that. Does anybody else have any thoughts on this one about student self-motivation, self-study? Has anybody got any best practices that they could share that they are using at the moment and they think work really well?
Can I speak?
Of course.
I think the needs assessment bit is quite important. So assessing what students need, in which areas they should improve, and also what interests they have, or professional background, and so on. So this might help with them being motivated, interested in the topic of the lessons. But something that I tried and worked really well, and the student I was working with had a really poor connection, so we were struggling with synchronous classes, was online courses like MOOCs on Coursera or FutureLearn, or anyway, free courses that are online. And he got to choose the topic. So every week we'd study one unit separately, and we'd get together one time for 1 hour and do a quiz together or discuss the content of the unit. So there's a lot of content, useful content online, and I think MOOCs can work really well in this context.
And MOOCs is usually user-friendly with a mobile phone. It's easy to use. Yeah.
Yeah, Coursera has an app, and there's also, I think, refugee students can apply for free certificates. Mm-hmm. And FutureLearn is user-friendly too. And there are other platforms, but these two are the ones I tried. So I can totally recommend them.
Nice. I like that idea. Anybody else? Have they got any best practices for student engagement, student self-study? I think it's something we struggle with in this context when we're not online, right? So it's only kind of amplified, you could say, in this environment online. Duolingo, yeah.
Sorry, I can just an idea. Silvina, sorry to put you on the spot. Just want to maybe just talk about the study group concept that we use. Language Beyond Borders, kind of to, on Facebook, yeah. That kind of aids self-study, yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's the idea that, so it doesn't involve an actual lesson. And so you set a task as the teacher for a group of students to do that have the same level, and they interact through, we use Facebook, like private Facebook groups, and they interact through the Facebook group. And so you can do various things, like you can ask them to send little voice notes, or you could ask them to write something. And the idea is that they can practice their English in between classes, but they don't actually have to have amazing internet connection, because it's not reliant on an actual lesson. There's no face-to-face, but you can be quite creative, do activities that can involve everyone. They can comment on each other. Yeah, that's it. It works nicely. Provided that, I don't know how you communicate with the people you teach, if you use social media or not. So I guess it depends how you can, but you could use something like Google Classroom to do the same, but it'd be less visual, I guess.
Yeah, so just saying, so we have a teacher who's in charge, who has charge of up to sort of 8 or 10 students maximum, and kind of gives them real feedback and constructive feedback on the work that they do, on their writing, on their speaking, whatever, and keeps them engaged. It's like a tutor, study group and a tutor, basically, and it works really well, Silvina said.
Tiff, would you like to go and ask a question?
No, I just wanted to follow up to what Silvina said, that at the start of this, the college where it's a huge, we have about 1,000 ESOL students, most of whom are refugees. It closed. We were asked to transfer them straight on to Zoom. I felt that was too big a jump. So we created Facebook groups, just like Silvina said. And what we found was that in this particular context at the moment of being on lockdown, that having a space, a social space to be together was really, really helpful, and it kept them engaged. But also, yeah, you can give them paired tasks. They can put up answers, and then other students can actually reformulate. So you can do things like reformulation, which happened in class anyway, and students can correct each other, help each other. They can use private messaging. So yeah, like just to reinforce what Silvina said, I think social media is really useful. They can have class WhatsApp groups and then break off from that into their own groups. So yeah, it's social media is helpful.
Because on the Facebook groups, you can set it. If you post something, you can have it so it's like a feature, or it's pinned. I can't remember the exact word. Or you can have units as well, so you can make it as structured as you would like it to be. And as you can make it private, you don't have to worry about someone else who's not part of your organization or in your class just popping up. Yeah, but I always think with social media, sometimes not too many people is better. Because I think when there are more people, less people interact, they get a bit complacent. I don't know if you found that, Tiff, but
I kind of had the opposite actually.
Oh.
They were all such keen beans that
Okay.
it was just like Philip had earlier, just so many answers coming down too fast.
Nice.
I think because they're just so they really are. They're so looking forward to that half an hour where they can learn. It's like gold dust to them now. So they're really motivated. What I also did though was got a GIF of tumbleweeds, and if
GIFs are amazing.
I put tumbleweeds, and it seems to be universal. Everybody understands. It's like I'm telling you, somebody has to jump in here, and then you can just tag someone to go in first. You know. So
sounds good.
Yeah, that's great. I like the tumbleweed idea. I'm really bad at finding GIFs. I don't know if anybody else has that problem. I have an idea of one, and then I try to search for it, and I can never find the one I want. So I'm not going to use GIFs.
I did also use the Ferris Bueller roll call, but that only works with people who've seen the movie. But if students have, then they like it.
Nice. Okay, would anybody else like to add anything on that same point before we move on to a different question? So about student self-motivation to study in their spare time, in their free time. Any more best practices people are finding working really well?
I don't know if best practice, but I just want to add, with, as Tiff said, I mean, situation for the students really are, unique. They really have a very difficult place where they're starting from. And yeah, just to, I suppose, to have low expectations in that sense. We can't just expect students to become independent learners, overnight. I mean, us here, in the best of times, are not the best independent learners, really, when it comes down to it, if you really think about it. So we need to, I think, just take it easy, have low expectations, and need to learn or teach them how to learn as well. Because their background, their cultural background, their education background, what they're used to plays such a big role, whether, the perspective that they have and how they view the role of the teacher. I've had quite a few Chinese students in the past, and, the teacher is king, really, hello, my teacher, whatever the teacher says goes, that kind of thing. That happens in many cultures, that. So a lot of cultural barriers as well, and just to slowly feed them, little ideas, do a stepwise, basically, and scaffold it once again, one little bit at a time, one idea at a time, maybe.
Yes, don't put too much pressure on yourself. And for us working in this context, hopefully this is a temporary situation. So we need temporary solutions as well. Fingers crossed. Okay, so we've got some other questions here. I saw another one. Speaking activities for classes where teacher and students don't share the same native language. I think you kind of mean for low-level learners, right? When there's little common language to begin with, so starting those speaking activities is difficult. Have I understood that correctly? Who wrote that question? George. Hello?
Hello, yeah, indeed, it was me. My name is George. I'm Greek and I'm an English teacher. Yeah, I teach refugees, that's my job. And I wrote it because, yeah, you're right, Colette. I was referring to low-level speakers. I think that, you know, my native language is Greek. My students' native language is not Greek, and some of them cannot speak English very well. So I always want and try to find ways for them to be able to communicate not only with me, but with their classmates, in order for them to be more confident. Some of them get carried away and I keep reminding them that this is an English class. But I see positive results. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Yeah, speaking activities, basics. I mean, introducing themselves, where they are from, and similar stuff.
Yeah, great. I guess it goes back to what Philip was saying about building on what they know already. Like you just said, revision. You can see this time as a place of revision, building on those things that they know, especially for low levels. You know, names, introductions, where you're from, what's your jobs. Just being able to keep repeating, keep revising those so they're not forgotten and they're still practicing their speaking skills is good. I know low-level learners is a big concern for many people in this context, and not having that translation or having that communication issue. Does anybody have any best practices on this that they would like to share? Maybe some helpful tips for others on how they've managed to overcome these issues.
If I can just jump in real quick, sorry that I don't have video, but I just wanted to say that I think it's also really useful to have sentence frames. So to really model for the students what sort of response, what a thoughtful response might look like, or what a full response might look like. So you kind of give them maybe 50% of the words that they could use, and then they fill in the other 50% so that they feel like they have a little bit of a helping hand in the start, but then really have the chance to innovate at the end, I think is also a good strategy.
Great, thanks, Emily. Nice to hear your voice as well, even though I can't see you. Anybody else? Anybody else have anything to share on this? That's great. Yes, I see. Is it?
My name is Alexandra. I don't know if you can read my name in Greek. So yes, I have been teaching Greek to refugees in Athens. I think I agree totally with what has been said, and thank you for this presentation. It has been amazing about low literacy students. I think that inserting gradually letters and alphabet, because alphabet is an horizontal, inserting them is a horizontal procedure, and facing students as people who carry their own baggage and focus on what they have, as you said already, what they carry with them. I think for me, at least, it's very important to motivate them psychologically in any way apart from learning per se. Like appreciating them, it's very important. I have seen that. So appreciation, it's like something that you make them feel good. You create a safe space in the class. You can work in a circle. This works very well. You can, at the beginning of the lesson, for example, I have been using the circle, and we have been doing dialogues in pairs in the circle, or sharing ideas, or using flashcards in the circle, and then switch to the desks and work individually, for example. But creating a safe space from the beginning is very important. Also, as you said, or I can't remember who said that. I think Alexandra said that creating an assessment, a pre-assessment before the classroom starts, really, to see what they really want to learn, or what are their expectations from this course, or their desires, their interests, would be a useful guide for going on. I think that lowering our expectations is very important, because at the beginning we think that we can achieve a lot of things, but it's important to realize who are our students and their needs. And yeah, they're not all the learners the same. We need to adapt, to customize the learning every time. I totally agree with everything that has been said on the part of Philip about low literacy. I have seen it somehow, and I think that I'm going to take all this useful advice in consideration. Thank you.
That's great. I'm really glad that you found it useful. Yeah, thank you for sharing. I've seen a comment in the chat, cultural mediators do help. So has anybody used cultural mediators with doing low-level language classes, and how has that gone? Because this is something that has been talked about in other meetings I've been in, and I was wondering if anybody's tried it.
Yes, it's me. Sorry, I don't have the video on.
No
In the organization where I work, we do have cultural mediators, and I found it really useful when, you know, it is needed for them to step in and explain things in their own language. And I've tried it several times, especially with low literacy students, and it does help. It does solve, you know, a lot of problems. Another there is also another example is also when there are students who speak English. For example, they speak English fluently and they can transfer what I'm saying to in their own native language, and this also does help. That's all I had to say.
Yeah, I think, let's be honest, some people like using translators in their class, other people think that it's a barrier to learning. So people have their own opinions about this. My personal opinion is that in this environment, working with low-level learners, it gives some people a sense of security. They feel safer to try the language because they know there's going to be someone to translate for them. If it was a higher level group of students, I wouldn't use a cultural mediator because they need to, you know, be challenged to use to use English as much as possible. What does anybody else have any thoughts on that? We're at 6:30, so, you know, that was kind of the end of the webinar. But if we have some more questions, any more thoughts? There's one about presently broadcasting video lessons to a refugee camp, ways of making a non-interactive medium engaging. I know lots of organizations are switching to videos on YouTube, on their Facebook pages. Oh, another question. And I was just wondering, has anybody got some good ideas for making these videos engaging? What have you done? Best practices?
Can I say something?
Please, yes.
Okay, so I work for ECHO 100 Plus in Athens. And we have created, I think because most people don't actually go online at the same time, we can't have classes. So we preferred to have asynchronous education. For my upper classes, like B1 and B2, I am providing videos and tasks that I know they can understand. But for my A1 students, with whom I started in January, and we had just done like the verb be and very simple things. I have started actually uploading videos on YouTube, but I'm using very vibrant PowerPoint presentations with many examples, and so I think it helps them because I see that they respond very well to it, because they can see the things that I'm saying, but they can also hear me saying them. And then I follow up with simple tasks that they can do. And I've seen that the mistakes that they're doing are actually far fewer than what they were in the classroom. So I think that works well. It just needs time and like sort of more detailed, not exhaustive, but detailed presentations. For example, yesterday I uploaded a video on how, on vocabulary, countries, nationalities, and languages. Okay, and I did some examples like, is George Clooney from Spain? No, he isn't. He's from America, and stuff like that. And they responded really well, actually. So I think detailed presentations with vibrant colors and many examples.
Great. And how are you receiving their homework or feedback?
In the comments. My post consists of actually, the link to the video. The actual post contains 1 or 2 tasks a day, and they give their answers in the comments.
Great. And would you say the engagement is quite high, or?
Not high, but constant, at least.
That's good. That's really good.
Yeah, I'm really happy about that. Nice.
Someone's asked in the chat, would you be able to share some links to your videos, or are they private?
Yeah. Where should I send it? Because I think should I send it to the email you sent with the link and you can share it?
That's a great idea. Yeah, send it to me, and then I will send out the recording to everybody if it's okay with you, and put the links in there.
And I will be uploading more videos, so you can check them out.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Nasia.
Yes, we are also producing videos. IMU at Ritsona Camp. Yeah. We're putting out videos at 4 different levels. One going out every day. And this is, for sharing with all people who need it, who want it. They're specifically aimed, obviously, at the refugee population. And we're also looking for other teachers to be able to contribute videos, because it's quite a task load getting out these videos every day. So any help gratefully received on that front. But these videos can be used, by anybody. They're free to share for anybody.
Yes, I've seen the IMU videos. They are very beautiful. Lots of nice technical, not technical graphics, but some nice graphics. So I'm not surprised they take a bit of time to create, because they're very nice. Would anybody else?
So, yes, if we could also share the link to that, then that would be great.
Yeah, I will do, of course.
But we have the situation where we don't have a class that we're broadcasting to. We're broadcasting to a whole camp. So we're talking about 2,000 people here. So the problem is maybe ways that can be suggested that we can get some sort of interaction back from these videos, how we can build on this.
In the videos, do they have activities? Oh, sorry, I cut someone off.
I was just going to say something. Not give specific ideas. I mean, the ideas that you've given are great, and what Nasia mentioned as well. Just going to say that, when we suddenly have to start going online, sometimes we need to try something and then take a step back and say, hang on, okay, for example, okay, we're producing these videos. So, right, what are the purpose of the videos? You know, what's the point of them really? Is it for additional study? Is it trying to teach something? Do we really need a response from them? What's our aim? You know, are these videos, the way we're making them, fulfilling those needs? You know, to take a step back and kind of reevaluate what we're doing and see, maybe like Nisha said, maybe the videos need to be changed, or maybe you need a platform. If you know what I'm trying to say, kind of try something, go back and plan and see how this video fit into the greater scheme of what you're trying to achieve, and then see what's possible. As opposed to, okay, I've got some videos, you know, how can the students engage and interact? There might be other things also to think about, like the purpose of the video, how the videos are made, and so on. I haven't seen a little bit of one of your videos only, but just some thoughts. You know, it requires a lot of planning, preparation, and thinking, really, to set things up and get it running. And yes, trial and error all the time. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's true. Don't be afraid to try new things. I think that's the great opportunity of this time, is that we have all been thrown into the same situation where we have to use new technologies, which we would never normally use. So yes, seeing it as an opportunity and having a go. Tiff, you've raised your small hand on the screen.
I think that in itself is a good tool for people to use in big classes, because you can raise your hand visually, but if someone doesn't use their camera, then that's not always an option. Yeah, it's just to say that, Dorita, just encourage people to make their lessons as interactive as possible, and if it can't really be a lecture. In the same way that in a class you wouldn't spend much time, or as little time as possible, actually at the front of the class. So, but just remember to leave time. So so if you have a word, just leave a gap for them to pronounce the words, and then you model it again for them, and then leave a gap for them to try again. So it's just a change of mindset. Also, if you can have access to I dug these out. I hadn't used these in years. Show me boards. But you can have lots and lots of interactive activities, back scrambles, you know, all kinds of stuff that you would normally use, and just make sure you punctuate your class with as many of these as possible. Things that people can do in real time. So you say, okay, we're going to do this activity. I might even write a link in the text box for you to look at, or send that to the WhatsApp group. You go away and do that. Give them a time limit. Get them to come back. You can ask them to pause the video if they want more time. So these are all ways that people can manage things in their own way, but come back, and if the class is really interactive and it's not just a teacher spending too much time just talking. I'll put a link in here for one that people have really, the ISL Collective video lessons have worked really, really well for us. So yeah, so that would be my advice on how to do that.
That's a really good website tip. Sorry if I interrupted, but I was reading your comment about engagement after posting videos on YouTube or in WhatsApp groups. I think I think there's challenge here, because groups need moderator. They need someone who has the energy, who can create tasks, who can praise people who participate. So it's about being there and encouraging people to be there and asking good questions, making them feel like they want to say something. Something that worked well with students in WhatsApp groups, for example, was checking on them every now and then, asking them to use an emoji to show to express how they felt, or just riddles or easy questions. I don't know, but it needs moderation and reactions to what they said, feedback to what students wrote or said there. So this might help with engagement when it comes to groups. That's it.
Yeah, nice. Good. So kind of creating that kind of community, but on the online space. Like you said, it takes a lot of time and lots of involvement, but it really needs that focus point to bring people together. Yeah, I like that idea. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to share? Any other questions before we wrap up the session today? I feel the tumbleweed gif would be quite good right now. Okay, so thank you very much everybody for coming. Oh dear. Oh, hello, can everybody hear me okay? Just before you all disappear, I have a feedback form that I'd really appreciate if you could fill out for us. It's on a Google form. I'm going to put it in the chat right now. So if you can paste that link for the feedback form, I'd very much appreciate it. Thank you to Philip from Language Beyond Borders for hosting this today.
Okay, it seems Colette.
You can't hear me?
Or something's interfering with what she's doing. But all right, she's managed to. Okay, all right, Colette, you're back.
Can you hear
Yeah,
me okay? Or I'm
now, yes. Yeah, no, you were gone. You were gone.
Well, that's good. It lasted the whole session, apart from now. I'm going to say this very quickly then, before the gremlins get back on the wire. Thank you very much, Philip, for hosting it today. And for Language Beyond Borders for volunteering their time and their expertise on this. We're very, very grateful for RefugeeEd. Thank you for your contributions. It's been lovely to see so many of you. Please get in touch with me, coordination@refugeeed.com if you have any questions. Also, Philip, is it safe to say they can get in touch with you as well if they have any?
It's very safe.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
Yes. So,
and I don't know
of course.
if you heard me, but there's the feedback form. Please fill in the feedback form. I'd very much appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, no, from me as well, thank you very much. I really tried to meet as many needs as I possibly could, just touching on different bits and pieces. Very happy, of course, to see, as somebody also said, the rich exchange. I mean, the experience that a lot of you have and the ideas that you shared got me thinking about a few things as well. Thank you very much for that. And like I said from the start, it's our passion for what we do that unites us, that got us here today. So yeah, thank you also to RefugeeEd. And for Sylvina Alexander from Language Beyond Borders that joined us. Do find me on LinkedIn if you like, or contact us at Language Beyond Borders for anything at all. That'll be great. And I think maybe Colette, if you can leave Zoom just on so that we can all just grab the form, the link, before it's gone.
With pleasure.
Before we forget. Okay. Great. So huge thank you to you all. And yeah, I hope we'll be in touch somewhere, somehow. Okay, for sure.
Yeah, keep up the good work, everybody. Thank you.
All the best. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I'm still on this webinar.
All right, yes. I'm still here, so grab your form. Copy it before it's gone. All right, can I just check if everybody's got the link? Because the webinar will close soon. Just grab your link. Cheers, Steph. Thanks a lot for your input. All right, so I'm off as well. Thanks a lot, everybody. Take care.
Thanks, Philip.
Thank you, Colette. Bye-bye.